Hey Sunspace Sun, I'm Daisy Victoria, or is it Queen Daisy Victoria? If you too would like to join my queendom, I invite you to be a part of it. And you know what you might need if you are going to join my queendom? You might need a really cool skirt to wear. So today I'm going to show you how I made a super cool skirt, which is also a petticoat, out of a bed skirt. Now, why would you make a skirt out of a bed skirt? Let me present you with 3 reasons. 1, it's super fun to wear and easy to make. That was kind of 2 reasons in 1. 2, you can get bed skirts at thrift stores, which saves you a little money and also keeps some things out of the landfills. And 3, you know what bed skirts already have? Ruffles. You don't even need to make a ruffle, your petticoat will already have one. I decided to make my petticoat to go with an 18th century inspired gown that I am working on. And that's why I picked a white bed skirt, so it would be a good undergarment. But you can pick any color you want, or you could even dye a white one another color. So there are many possibilities for this type of skirt. While I chose to make this a petticoat, which is an underskirt, you'll see me wearing it in the reveal footage as my actual outer skirt. I think it's a really versatile style. It's great for historical undergarments. It can also be worn as a super cool cottagecore look, fantasy core, fairy core, all those core fashions. It's perfect for Ren Fair. You could wear it to frolic in the meadows. You could wear it around the house. Maybe might get in the way of some things. It's got pocket slits, so you can wear pockets and pouches underneath. I just really like it, and I want to tell you how much I love my skirt apparently because it's really fun. But also, it's a great project that's not that difficult to do, and I think it's accessible for a lot of us. So I thought it would be a great one to share with you. And that's why I decided to make this a whole separate video instead of just cramming it in alongside the other undergarments for my 18th century gown. I thought it would be really helpful to present it to you as something that is actually a very beginner-friendly project. So I hope this helps you, and if you do make one, I would love for you to tag me so I can see what you create. All right, let's get to work on this thing. I found 2 bed skirts at the thrift store, and I ended up actually only needing 1 because it was plenty big enough to make a very full skirt just with the 1. This ruffle here at the bottom, I decided to use as the ruffle for the bottom of my skirt. Very convenient. And what I really wanted to do was to take the 2 long sides of the bed skirt and use those as the lower edge of my skirt. So I just checked to make sure that if I folded the bed skirt in half, that it was long enough and voluminous enough to make the skirt I wanted. And it looks like it's gonna be super good. Since the length of this one was pretty perfect, all I had to do to get started was to cut it in half. The bed skirt has a ruffle that goes around 3 sides, so basically it would be the 2 sides and the foot of the bed. I'm taking those 2 long sides and lining them up when I fold it in half, so that way I have those 2 as the lower edge of my skirt. I made sure to get everything as even as possible, so that way I could just go ahead and cut it in half. So I'm making sure that I'm lining up the ruffles as well as possible. And then I just took my scissors and I just cut it right in half. Now when you get to the sides, you have these things where the ruffle kind of goes around the edge a little bit, and that's so that it works nicely on the bed. But to make it into a petticoat, I'm gonna need to sew a seam there anyway, so I went ahead and just cut off the entire seam. And then when I got to the ruffle, I just folded the ruffle out a little bit to make it straight, and then I continued cutting off. So basically I have a straight edge there to work with. Now on the other side, there's another ruffle, and I just cut that completely off because I don't need a ruffle obviously in the middle of my side seam. And then where the two ruffles meet at the corner of the skirt, bed skirt, people skirt, whatever, it's all a skirt. I try to be as careful as possible to cut a straight line so that way, you know, I end up with a straight seam in the end. And with everything cut apart, it's time to do some sewing. First of all, I had to sew the two side seams together. When I did this, I actually left part of them open at the top, and that's so that I could have pocket slits. And then I hemmed the upper parts that I left open on both sides. Here is my side seam. And now it's time to iron. I decided to iron after I sewed the side seams together, so I'm doing that now. This tailor's ham can help a lot to get the ruffle because of all those gathers. The other thing I need to cut out of my fabric is a waistband. Now it just so happens that I have extra fabric from the ruffle I cut off. So the part that used to be the foot of the bed ruffle is now fabric available to use for a waistband. Basically, I cut off the hem of it and then I measured 3 inches and cut a really long piece of fabric. To prepare my waistband, I'm ironing it just like bias tape, but on the straight grain. So I'm folding the 2 edges in toward the center and then folding the center over on itself. Next, I need to gather my skirt into that waistband. So I sewed 2 rows of gathering stitches on each side, the front side and the back side of the skirt. And then I gathered them. Because the skirt isn't sewn together on the sides, it didn't have to be exactly the same size as my waist, but I made it pretty darn close. After gathering the skirt, I sewed on the waistband pieces. So what I'm doing here is I'm sewing on 2 pieces, one to the front part and one to the back part. And each waistband piece extends beyond the edge of the skirt, so it's going to be long enough to tie all the way around my waist. So when you wear this skirt, the back ties all the way in the front, and then the front comes up on top and ties all the way in the back. So that's probably the least sewing I've ever done to get a skirt like this. I really appreciate that ruffle already being a part of it for me. So now I'm going to put this on with sort of 18th century undergarments to make a fun history bounding outfit for the reveal. These pockets you can see in another video. These are based on 18th century pockets, and the corset or pair of stays I'm wearing will be covered in a future video. This is based on 18th century stays as well. And then for the skirt, the back ties around the front, and then the front ties around the back. And then you have slits so you can access those pockets. Even though my 18th century gown is not created yet, this is a totally fun outfit all by itself. And I was super excited to take this into the forest and get some reveal footage. I'd been missing the forest where I lived for a while. I'm kind of a forest type of person. So having locations like this again is just so exciting for me. One thing I love about this skirt is how versatile it is, because this is basically my 18th century undergarments, well, if you swap out the shirt for a real chemise, but it's also just such a fun, fantastical dress. What I've got so far is basically a history-inspired fairy tale dress of my childhood dreams. I think little Daisy would be really proud, and big Daisy is pretty proud too. Frolicking like a princess in the forest was super fun. So when I got home from shooting this reveal footage, I unfortunately realized that one of my eyelashes had fallen off, so all of my close-up shots looked super weird. And while that's kind of funny, it's not the look I was going for, so I decided to reshoot. And it ended up raining quite a lot, so I tried shooting in the rain. I thought that would be really cool. Well, it looks really cool. I kind of like it. It was not very easy to get all the shots I wanted because I just didn't have a really rain-friendly setup. So I waited until it was clear again, and I went back and finished shooting this super cool fairy tale princess in the forest reveal footage / fashion film. If you find this helpful and you make something on your own, please tag me so I can see it. If you haven't already, make sure you subscribe and hit the notification bell so you see all the cool stuff I make. Find me on all the social medias as Daisy Viktoria. My website is daisyviktoria.com. And a very special thank you to my patrons who help to continue the creation of awesome stuff like this. And as always, I appreciate every one of you so much. I hope you have a super magical day, and I'll see you again real soon. Bye bye.